Today, we're talking about your rights if you're a cyclist injured in a car accident. What kind of options do you have? Some important steps you might want to take if you're a cyclist that was involved in a car accident. If you're able to, if you're well enough at the scene, speak to the police, make sure the police come to the scene, tell them exactly what happened, take photographs if you're able to. If there are any witnesses to the accident, make sure you get their contact information and obviously seek medical attention. And I say if you're able to because very often in cycling accidents, unfortunately, oftentimes the cyclist is just not able to remain at the scene. They're urgently taken to hospital. Also, it's important to speak to a lawyer right away to do some of these things on your behalf. If you're a cyclist and you sustain significant injuries, consult with a lawyer quickly because the lawyer will be able to preserve evidence. Oftentimes in these kind of accidents, because bicycles operate a little bit differently than cars, they're in different locations in the road typically, that could lead the operator of the motor vehicle, the person that hit you, to change their story, to try to blame the cyclist. So it's important to get a lawyer early to investigate it, to make sure they get a copy of the police report, interview witnesses if there are any, engage engineers if necessary to do an accident reconstruction, to really, really preserve your rights and make sure that you can advance your claim against the at-fault party and ultimately get paid by their insurance company. In terms of compensation, what's available for cyclists that are injured in a car accident, it's the usual compensation that would be available for anyone injured in a motor vehicle accident. And that would include claims for pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, really impacting your life and well-being. You can also claim for the economic or the pecuniary losses, and that would include things like medical expenses, support and services. So that could be services at home, assistance at home, housekeeping support, etc. Also income loss. So if the injury has prevented you from returning to work, if it's resulted in you missing work, or if it's resulted in a change in your occupation, you can claim for those losses as well. And it's important to note also, your lawyer will be trying not only to get you the losses that you immediately sustained, but also they'll be looking and working with you and your healthcare providers to identify whether you're going to have any longer-term complications that impact your function, your ability to work, etc., and try to maximize your compensation so you can have security in the future as well. The insurance company is going to look for opportunities to blame the cyclist, And again, that gets back to just the nature of how bicycles operate on the road versus cars. They'll look at, where was your bicycle in the roadway? Did you signal? Was the bike easy to see for a car? Was it reflective gear? What were you wearing in terms of safety equipment? Were you wearing a helmet? Could that have prevented some or all of your injuries? Certainly insurance companies, they're going to do their job at exploring and looking for ways to deflect blame, which in turn will save them money. So it's important, again, to have a lawyer that is looking out for you and making sure that your case is presented in the light most favorable to you, demonstrating that, in fact, it wasn't your fault, that it was really the fault of the vehicle that ultimately hit you. Some cities and some roads will have dedicated lanes for bicycles, in awareness of the fact that bicycles and cyclists are more vulnerable and try to offer more protection for bicycles. And that's great to see, and it's expanding. We see it in big cities, but it's starting to expand to the suburbs as well. A lot of cyclists enjoy riding on country roads. They're often gravel shoulders, ditches on the side. The roadway itself is narrower. Sometimes there's hills, and as scenic as those are, they can be more challenging for cyclists in terms of safety. So it's really important for cyclists to also look out for yourself. Bicycle accidents often result in very serious injuries. Common injuries include head injuries, traumatic brain injuries. In a good situation, maybe an extremity fracture like a leg or an arm. Sadly, you also see lots of skull fractures and head injuries, spinal fractures. Sometimes those injuries are fatal. The injuries tend to be far more serious with cyclists. Follow the rules of the road, obey traffic lights and other signals like stop signs, Make yourself visible. You see many cyclists like to wear bright colored clothing. That's very helpful. Helmet goes without saying, to protect yourself as best you can. For children, teach them proper etiquette when riding their bike. Make sure they look out for themselves, trying to make eye contact with other vehicles before crossing, and if possible, ride with your children when you're sharing the road with cars. Those are just some tips that we would share based on accidents that we've seen involving cyclists. Unfortunately, sometimes with cycling accidents, sometimes the cyclist is never able to identify the vehicle that hit them. So this would be a situation where they may be riding a bike, they get hit by a car, and the car just never stops. So it turns out to be a hit and run accident. Those are a whole unique area on their own, hit and run accidents. We have a video specifically on hit and run accidents, but what I'll say here is, fortunately, in most situations, even if it turns out to be a hit and run and the vehicle driver or the vehicle itself is never identified, there still may be an avenue for you to recover your losses. So speak to your lawyer, call us. We're happy to talk to you about your specific insurance policy or coverages that may be available. Our telephone lines are open to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or you can request a free consultation on our website. We're happy to have a free consultation with you to answer your questions.